Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, at least kind of for the moment. What I am talking about is the NFL season is finally back. Tonight, we have the Hall of Fame game, which if you guys are not familiar with what the Hall of Fame game is, it is basically the first preseason game of the year, and they induct the new class of Hall of Famers into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, they're in Canton, Ohio. So that is what we have on TV tonight. Now, I want to talk about a few things about this game. More specifically, I think I just want to talk football because it's been so long since we had some football on the television. But just to give you guys a little bit of extra, I want to talk about some deep Dynasty diamonds that you could watch in tonight's game for your Dynasty Fantasy Football rosters if you play in some deep leagues and if you're looking for some guys to throw on your bench before these football games start. So I do have those for you in today's video, but let's talk a little bit about the game as a whole, the guys that are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and everything else included. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about this game. So maybe you didn't know there was some football on tonight and you're asking, hey, Andrew, how am I going to watch this game? Well, if you needed to know, it is going to be on ABC and ESPN at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. So you guys will be able to watch the Hall of Fame ceremony and the game there. Now, there is a little bit of a disclaimer. There are going to be very little, if any, starters playing in tonight's game. So like I said, we're going to talk some deep diamonds. You guys will hear some of those. But let's talk about the guys that are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, because there's some really cool names, guys that we grew up watching, guys that have just been legends in the sport. Obviously, that's why they're going into the Hall of Fame. But first and foremost, let's talk about Dwight Freeney, because he is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame today. And this is a legendary defensive end for the Colts. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler and a 3-time All-Pro. He also finished 18th in career sacks with 125.5 sacks over the course of his career. Now, another player being added into the Hall of Fame is going to be Gradishar. He is the Broncos linebacker from 1974 to 1983. He was part of that Orange Crush defense, and he holds the Broncos franchise record for tackles. And another crazy stat about Gradishar is he never actually missed a game over the course of his entire career. So he's one of those guys who never missed an entire game. It's pretty crazy to think about that. Now, another name you and I are both going to know just off the top of our head, it's Devin Hester, man. Devin Hester, he is one of the greatest punt and kick returners of all time. He had 19 career regular season touchdown returns and was selected for 2 all-decade teams in the 2000s and the 2010s. So definitely a legend for us. We all know Devin Hester. He's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight as well. The next player will be Andre Johnson, obviously a Houston Texan for a very long time, legendary Houston Texan at that. He made 7 Pro Bowls. He totaled 14,000 career receiving yards and 70 receiving touchdowns. He also joined Jerry Rice as the only players to have multiple 1,400-yard seasons after the age of 30. So you might know him from the punch of Cortland Finnegan, but this is a guy who was an absolute baller on the football field. Now, Steve McMichael is also going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He kind of had a rocky start to his career, but he did put together a legendary career from 1983 to 1993. That 10-year period, he was playing as a foundational player for the Bears, and he was one of the best interior pass rushers of his time with 95 career sacks. Now, another guy going into the Hall of Fame is going to be Julius Peppers, and well-deserved, because he was a Carolina Panther who finished 4th all-time on the official sack list with 159.5 sacks, and only Jim Marshall and Hall of Famer Bruce Smith played more games at the defensive end position than Julius Peppers did over his career. He played a total of 266 games at that defensive end position, so definitely a legend in Julius Peppers. And last but not least, Patrick Willis is also going into the Hall of Fame. Now, his career was cut short due to an injury, we all know that, but he had an incredibly packed resume, even though he didn't play a ton of time in the NFL. He was selected to the all-decade team of the 2010s despite only playing in about half of the decade, and that's a true testament to how good Patrick Willis was when he was on the field, and he led the league in solo tackles over his 8-year career. So he is going to be the last guy being added into the Hall of Fame tonight. So just wanted to give you guys a quick brief of who's going into the Hall of Fame. Definitely some guys you probably grew up watching, some superstars over the last couple of decades. So it's definitely going to be fun to see those guys go into the Hall of Fame. But another thing that's going to be on people's minds, and obviously in the Dynasty Fantasy Football community, it's going to be the big name rookies tonight that could be on the field. Now, the thing is, they won't be on the field. These rookies are going to be inactive. I'm talking about Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears, obviously the #1 pick in the NFL draft, and Rome Odunze, the wide receiver by the Chicago Bears as well. These guys were top 10 picks in the NFL draft. Obviously, Dynasty managers are very excited to see these two guys play. We know the rapport that they've already started to build. We've seen the draft videos, the training camp videos, all of the stuff that they've been doing. This seems like it could be a duo for a long time in our Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. But as I mentioned, neither of these guys are going to be playing in tonight's game. The Bears, they came out, they said the starters will not play at all. They will be be inactive. So Caleb Williams, even though he said that he would like to play and he thinks it's valuable for him to get some reps in these preseason games, he's not going to do it. And the reality is it makes a lot of sense because this is kind of a bonus game. Now, every team gets 3 preseason games, but if you play in the Hall of Fame game, you get a 4th. So there is no reason to really risk injury in an extra game where most of the league isn't going to have to play that anyways. So I do think it makes sense for the Bears and the Texans not to play the starters, but a little bit unfortunate because we all want to watch Caleb Williams, because when he's on the field, it's going to be all eyes on him, and I truly believe that. But I still think we're probably going to get a lot of TV time. We'll probably get some sideline interviews from Caleb and Rome, probably see a lot of them on the TV screen, even though they're not playing. But unfortunately, like I said, it won't be in pads. So you want to know who you should be watching, and who are the guys that maybe could be some diamonds in the rough that you could go digging for in your Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Well, I kind of have 4 storylines here that I want to follow, and I'll talk about the guys that are going to be involved. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is going to be actually from the Houston Texans. We'll talk about Cade Stover of the Houston Texans. Now, he is probably going to be in a battle here for the tight end 2 job here with Brevin Jordan of the Houston Texans as well. Now, Stover, he was a pretty underrated player in the NFL draft process, and he was drafted in the 4th round by the Houston Texans. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because Brevin Jordan, he's been pretty solid for the Texans over the last couple of years. Obviously, he hasn't developed into a full-time starter, but he's been a decent piece for depth in this tight end room. Now, the reality is Cade Stover, he could actually be a better receiving threat than Brevin Jordan is, and Brevin Jordan is going into the last year of his contract. He will be a free agent in 2025, and with them using that draft pick on Stover, I think they're going to want to see him on the field and see him take over that tight end 2 job. So if Brevin Jordan can hold him off, maybe Brevin Jordan is the guy that backs up Dalton Schultz, but if he can't, it could be Cade Stover here in 2024. Now, another thing that I'm going to watch is going to be the running back 2 battle, or more so just the running back depth behind Joe Mixon in this Houston Texans backfield. Now, one guy in particular that I'm going to be watching is going to be Jawhar Jordan, the rookie out of Louisville, and he was drafted in the 6th round of the NFL draft, and he didn't have the best profile as a prospect, but we all know that the depth behind Joe Mixon isn't that great. We expect Dameon Pierce to be the RB2. He has the most experience between most of these guys behind Joe Mixon, but when you look at the depth chart, it's really just Cam Akers, who they recently signed. He's coming off of his 2nd Achilles tear, and you have Dare Ogunbowale, who's more so just a special teamer. So I do think that there's some opportunity for a guy like Jawhar Jordan to go out there tonight, get some playing time, maybe do well with that playing time, and make it a conversation for him to at least be the RB3 on this roster. And if he plays well over the course of the preseason, maybe start getting into that Dameon Pierce playing time and work his way at least into the conversation for the running back 2 job behind Joe Mixon. So that being said, I do think that you should probably go out and pick up Jawhar Jordan if you're in a deeper league and he's not on anybody's roster. Maybe pick him up tonight, because if he has a decent outing, I think he's going to be one of the most added players on Sleeper. He's going to be trending on Sleeper if he has a good outing. So get ahead of that, go try and get him tonight, and let's see what happens. Now, another storyline, and one that is probably one that I just want to root for more so than anything, is John Metchie. We all know that John Metchie is a former 2nd round pick. He was drafted by the Houston Texans before they brought in Tank Dell, before they brought in those guys. But John Metchie missed time at the beginning of his career. In fact, he missed the entirety of his rookie season due to a leukemia diagnosis. So this is a guy that I'm rooting for. I want to see do well tonight. And although I don't think he's necessarily going to be fighting for a roster spot, like I said, he's just a player that I'm watching. We know he had talent when he was at Alabama. So let's see what he can do. I think he's going to end up playing for the backup job behind Tank Dell as that slot wide receiver. And there's probably going to be some good battles there, because I hear that Robert Woods potentially can be fighting for his job here. He might be a trade or a cut candidate if he doesn't do well in the preseason. And if John Metchie outperforms him, he's probably going to move up the depth chart and take that role from Robert Woods. There's also another guy that you could probably watch. It's going to be Xavier Hutchinson. He's probably going to be playing for the backup job, even though right now it looks to be Noah Brown as the backup to Nico Collins as that X wide receiver. Xavier Hutchinson, he was drafted last year and he had a decent profile. He was a guy that people were taking flyers on. Maybe we see a little bit out of him here in year 2, but those are some guys that you can look at in the wide receiver room. But you should definitely be rooting for John Metchie and the comeback of John Metchie in this offense. And then the last and final thing that you should probably watch is going to be that running back 2 battle behind DeAndre Swift there for the Chicago Bears. If you look at the ESPN depth charts, and if you look at our lads depth charts, which are 2 of the most accurate depth charts that I can look at the moment, they currently have Khalil Herbert over Roschon Johnson as the running back 2 in this offense. Now, there have been some rumblings this offseason about Khalil Herbert maybe potentially being a cut candidate, maybe being a trade candidate. Based on everything I'm seeing, it does sound like Khalil Herbert might have the lead on the running back 2 job right now. So maybe that's something that doesn't happen if Roschon can't come out and take that running back 2 job. Now, this is something that you should probably be watching closely in your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues, because if you're looking for DeAndre Swift's backup, it sounds like that decision hasn't necessarily been made yet, and that's probably still an open competition. So if you're looking to try and handcuff your DeAndre Swift share, make sure you watch this very closely, because it could be either or when it comes to this backfield. So there you guys have it, a little bit of a different video today. Like I said, I just wanted to get on here. I wanted to rant. I wanted to talk some football. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are excited for it. Just means that the NFL season is just around the corner. We're going to have NFL preseason pretty much every week from here on out. Bears Hard Knocks, all of this good stuff. Like I said, I am very excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. If you like this video, it was a little bit different, you found it entertaining, maybe you found it informative, go ahead and hit that like button for me down below. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, if you guys are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because I'm here year round helping you guys with your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams, redraft teams, best ball teams, anything NFL and fantasy football related. I got you. That's what this channel's for. That's what my passion is. And if you want some up close and personal type of help with your drafts, with anything you got fantasy related, make sure to go join the Discord. I do have a free Discord linked in the description. So like I said, it's free to join. There is no risk in doing that. And I'm helping you guys with anything you need fantasy in there as well. And we also have a dope community of people that also want to help you too. So with all of that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today. So I will see you on our next video. But until then, peace out.